In a quiet corner of the galaxy, far from Earth and its bustling colonies, an ancient alien fighter drifted silently through the endless void. Its surface shimmered faintly with glowing patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat, casting eerie shadows across the empty space around it. The ship was small compared to the massive vessels humans used for exploration, but there was something about it, something unnerving, that made everyone who saw it hesitate. The discovery had been accidental. A routine scan by the Deep Space Research Vessel Endurance picked up strange energy readings in an uncharted sector. When they investigated, they found the fighter floating endlessly, as if waiting. At first glance, it looked abandoned, but closer inspection revealed intricate carvings etched into its metallic skin. Some of the symbols glowed faintly blue and green, while others seemed to shift when stared at too long. It wasn't just a machine. It felt alive. Back on the Endurance scientists buzzed with excitement and fear. This was no ordinary artifact. It was evidence of a civilization far older and more advanced than humanity. But despite their curiosity, no one wanted to get close. Strange things happened whenever someone tried. Equipment malfunctioned without explanation. Power surges rippled through the ship's systems. One crew member claimed he heard whispers in his helmet during a spacewalk near the fighter. Another swore she saw movement inside the cockpit, even though scans showed nothing living aboard. Commander Olivia Hayes stood on the bridge of the Endurance staring at the fighter through the viewport. She was a tall woman with sharp features and a no-nonsense attitude, respected by her crew for her calm under pressure. But even she couldn't shake the unease creeping into her thoughts. "It's not natural," she muttered to herself, crossing her arms tightly over her chest. Whatever this thing was, it didn't belong here, or maybe humanity didn't belong near it. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Ryan Carter, approached cautiously. "Ma'am," he began, his voice low, "the team is ready to run another set of tests. Do you want us to proceed?" His tone betrayed his reluctance. Like everyone else, he'd heard the stories. He'd seen the data spikes and watched colleagues pale after interacting with the ship. Olivia hesitated. They'd already tried everything short of physically touching the fighter. Probes sent near it either stopped working or returned corrupted data. Even attempts to communicate using universal mathematical sequences failed. Yet, abandoning the mission wasn't an option. The potential knowledge locked inside that ship could change humanity forever, if they could unlock it. "Go ahead," she finally said, though her gut told her otherwise. "But keep your distance, and remind everyone, safety protocols come first." As Ryan relayed the orders, Olivia turned back to the viewport. The fighter hung there, silent and still, yet somehow watching. She couldn't explain why she felt that way, but the sensation was undeniable. It was as if the ship knew they were studying it, and it wasn't pleased. Meanwhile, down in engineering, Grace Harper worked tirelessly alongside her team. A brilliant physicist with a knack for solving impossible problems, Grace refused to let fear stop her. She pored over the fragmented data collected so far, searching for clues. Something about the ship fascinated her, though she couldn't put her finger on what. Maybe it was the challenge, or maybe it was the mystery. Either way, she wasn't giving up. Grace's mind wandered briefly to Nathan Cole, an old friend who might actually enjoy this kind of puzzle. If only he were here, she thought wistfully. Then again, given how everyone else reacted, maybe it was better he stayed far away. Little did she know, fate had other plans. Nathan Cole wasn't the kind of man who got excited about much these days. Life on the orbital station had dulled his edges, turning him into someone content with fixing broken parts and avoiding attention. His workshop was cluttered but organized, filled with tools and scraps of old spacecraft waiting for repair. It was quiet work, predictable work, and that suited him fine. But when Grace Harper called him out of the blue, her voice crackling through the comms channel, Nathan felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in years: curiosity. "Nate, I need your help," Grace said without preamble. Her tone was urgent, almost panicked, which immediately caught his attention. Grace wasn't the type to lose her cool easily. "We found something incredible, and we can't figure it out." Nathan leaned back in his chair, rubbing the stubble on his chin. "Grace, you know I don't do incredible anymore. I fix things, remember? Broken thrusters, busted wiring. That's my job." "This isn't just some busted wiring," she shot back. "It's an alien ship, Nate. A real one. Not some junkyard wreck or corporate knockoff. It's ancient, advanced, and completely unlike anything we've ever seen. We're talking about technology that could change everything." Despite himself, Nathan raised an eyebrow. Alien artifacts weren't unheard of, but most were fragments, bits of debris or failed experiments left behind by long-dead civilizations. A whole ship. That was different. Still, he hesitated. "If it's so amazing, why are you calling me? You've got a whole team of experts up there." There was a pause on the other end, and Nathan could almost picture Grace frowning. "Because no one else will go near it," she admitted finally. "Every time we try to study it, weird stuff happens. Equipment breaks down. People get spooked. Honestly, Nate, we're stuck. And I thought of you because..." She trailed off, unsure how to finish. "Because I'm expendable?" Nathan asked dryly. "No," Grace snapped. "Because you're smart, and you don't scare easily. Look, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Please, Nate, just come take a look. If you don't want to stay after that, fine. But at least give us a chance." Nathan sighed, leaning forward again. He stared at the wall of his workshop, where a faded poster of an old Earth rocket hung crookedly. For years, he'd buried himself in mundane tasks, avoiding anything remotely risky or meaningful. But deep down, he missed the thrill of solving big problems, the kind that made you feel alive. This might be his chance to remember what that felt like. "All right," he said finally. "I'll come. But if this thing tries to eat me or blow me up, I'm blaming you." Grace laughed, relief evident in her voice. "Deal. I'll send the coordinates. See you soon, Nate." The journey to the Endurance took longer than Nathan expected, giving him plenty of time to second-guess his decision. By the time he arrived, nerves had started creeping in. The research vessel loomed large against the blackness of space, its lights blinking steadily. As Nathan boarded, he was greeted by a mix of curious stares and wary glances from the crew. Clearly, word had spread about the strange visitor who'd agreed to face the alien ship. Grace met him at the airlock, her face lighting up when she saw him. "You made it," she exclaimed, pulling him into a quick hug before leading him deeper into the ship. Along the way, she filled him in on the details: the strange energy readings, the glowing symbols, the equipment failures, the whispers. Nathan listened intently, nodding occasionally but saying little. He didn't want to jump to conclusions until he saw the ship for himself. When they reached the observation deck, Nathan stopped dead in his tracks. Through the viewport, he saw it, the alien fighter. Up close, it was even more striking than he'd imagined. Its surface shimmered with faint, shifting patterns that seemed to pulse with life. There was an elegance to its design, a sense of purpose that spoke of a civilization far beyond human understanding. "Well," Grace asked quietly, watching his reaction, "what do you think?" Nathan didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped closer to the window, studying the ship intently. Something about it intrigued him, drawing him in despite the warnings he'd heard. After a moment, he turned to Grace with a small smile. "Let's see what it can do." Nathan stood in the observation deck of the Endurance, staring at the alien fighter through the thick glass. It was hard to look away. The ship seemed to hum with energy, its glowing patterns shifting subtly as if alive. He could feel the weight of the crew's eyes on him, waiting to see what he would do next. Some looked hopeful, others seemed skeptical, even fearful. But Nathan didn't care about their opinions. All that mattered was the ship. Grace nudged him gently, breaking his concentration. "You ready?" she asked, her voice soft but eager. "As I'll ever be," Nathan replied with a shrug. He turned to face Commander Olivia Hayes, who had joined them silently. She stood tall, arms crossed, her sharp gaze fixed on him. Nathan met her stare without flinching. "So, what's the plan?" Commander Hayes hesitated before speaking. Her tone was firm but not unkind. "We've tried everything we can think of to interact with it. Scans, probes, communication attempts. Nothing works. Whatever this thing is, it doesn't respond to standard methods. If you're serious about helping, we'll give you access, but understand, no unnecessary risks." Nathan nodded. "Fair enough." With that, Grace led him to the airlock where a small team waited. They were dressed in suits designed for zero-gravity work, helmets tucked under their arms. Nathan grabbed a suit and began putting it on, listening as Grace explained the procedure. The team would stay back while he approached the fighter alone. Sensors embedded in his suit would relay data back to the ship, allowing the scientists to monitor his progress and pull him out if things went wrong. As they prepared, Nathan couldn't help but notice how tense everyone was. Even Grace, usually so confident, seemed uneasy. When she handed him a handheld scanner, her hands trembled slightly. "Just be careful, okay?" she said quietly. "I will," Nathan promised, giving her a reassuring smile. Then, stepping into the airlock, he took a deep breath and braced himself. The outer door opened, and Nathan floated out into the vast emptiness of space. The alien fighter loomed ahead, closer now than before. Up close, it was both beautiful and intimidating. The glowing symbols pulsed softly, almost rhythmically, like a heartbeat. Nathan moved slowly, keeping his movements deliberate and steady. He activated the scanner, watching as streams of data appeared on the tiny screen. Most of it was unreadable, strange codes and patterns that made no sense, but some parts hinted at incredible complexity. As he reached out to touch the ship's surface, something unexpected happened. The glowing symbols brightened suddenly, casting a soft light around him. Nathan froze, his heart pounding. For a moment, he thought the ship might lash out, but instead, it seemed to react calmly. Panels along its side shifted smoothly, revealing a hatch that slid open with a quiet hiss. Back on the Endurance Asterisk, the crew watched in stunned silence. Commander Hayes gripped the railing tightly, her knuckles white. "What's happening?" she demanded. Grace checked the monitors, her eyes wide. "It's letting him in," she whispered. "It's responding to him." Inside his helmet, Nathan heard the same words over the comlink. His pulse quickened, but he forced himself to stay calm. Carefully, he drifted toward the opening, peering inside. The interior was unlike anything he'd ever seen. The cockpit glowed faintly, filled with controls that looked more like art than machinery. Strange shapes floated in midair, shifting and rearranging themselves as if alive. At the center was what appeared to be a seat, or maybe a connection point. It wasn't clear. "Nate, are you okay?" Grace's voice came through, tinged with worry. "I'm fine," Nathan replied, though his voice betrayed his awe. "This thing, it's incredible." He hesitated for a moment, then stepped inside. As soon as he did, the hatch closed behind him with a soft click. The ship hummed softly, almost welcomingly, surrounding him with warmth. Nathan felt a strange sensation, like the ship was studying him, or maybe greeting him. Whatever it was, it didn't feel hostile. On the Endurance Asterisk, chaos erupted. Alarms blared as systems went haywire, sensors failing one by one. Commander Hayes barked orders, trying to regain control, but Grace barely noticed. Her eyes were glued to the viewport, where the alien fighter now hovered silently, its glow brighter than ever. "He's still alive," she murmured, clutching the edge of the console. "He's still in there." Inside the alien fighter, Nathan felt both awe and unease. The cockpit was unlike anything he'd ever imagined. Smooth, Curved surfaces glowed faintly, casting a soft light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with his own heartbeat. Floating shapes hovered around him, shifting and rearranging themselves as if alive. They weren't random. They moved with purpose, forming patterns that almost made sense, but slipped away before he could fully grasp them. The seat, or whatever it was, sat at the center of the cockpit, glowing faintly blue. It didn't look like a traditional chair. It was more like a cradle, designed to envelop whoever used it. Nathan hesitated, unsure whether he should touch anything. But the ship itself seemed calm. It hummed steady and soothing, almost inviting. He took a slow step forward, then another, until he stood directly in front of the cradle. "Nate, can you hear me?" Grace's voice crackled through his helmet comms, distant and faint. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Nathan replied, though his voice wavered slightly. "This place, it's incredible." He reached out cautiously, brushing his gloved hand against one of the floating shapes. Instantly, the shape flared brighter, responding to his touch. A wave of warmth spread through his body, not unpleasant but strange, as if the ship were testing him, or welcoming him. Encouraged, Nathan moved closer to the cradle and placed his hands on its surface. The glow intensified, wrapping around him like a gentle embrace. Back on the Endurance *, panic had set in. Systems flickered unpredictably, alarms blaring as crew members scrambled to stabilize the ship. Commander Hayes barked orders, her face tight with frustration. "Cut the feed. Shut down all external connections," she shouted, trying to regain control. But nothing worked. The alien fighter remained untouched, its glow brighter than ever. Grace ignored the chaos around her, focusing instead on the viewport. Her eyes stayed locked on the fighter, searching for any sign of Nathan. "Come on, Nate," she whispered under her breath. "You've got this." Inside the cockpit, Nathan felt something shift. The warmth surrounding him grew stronger, filling him with a sense of calm. Images began flashing in his mind, not his memories, but someone else's. Vast starfields stretched endlessly, dotted with planets and swirling nebulae. Alien ships darted across the skies, sleek and deadly, their movements precise and graceful. Battles raged, explosions lighting up the darkness, followed by moments of quiet beauty. A planet bathed in golden sunlight, forests stretching as far as the eye could see. Nathan realized these weren't just images, they were memories. The fighter was showing him something, sharing fragments of its past. He saw beings unlike anything human, tall and slender, with luminous eyes and intricate markings on their skin. They moved with elegance, their actions deliberate and meaningful. These must have been the ship's creators, the ones who had built it and flown it long ago. As the visions continued, Nathan felt a connection forming, not just between him and the ship, but between him and those who had come before. The fighter wasn't just a machine. It was alive, sentient, capable of thought and emotion. And it wasn't dangerous. It was lonely. It missed its original pilot, the bond they once shared now broken. Tears welled up in Nathan's eyes as he understood. This wasn't an enemy or a threat. It was a survivor, waiting for someone to understand it again. Slowly, he climbed into the cradle, letting the glowing surface envelop him completely. The warmth surged, wrapping around him like a cocoon. For a moment, everything went silent. Then, the ship spoke, not with words, but with feelings. It conveyed gratitude, relief, and a deep longing for companionship. Nathan didn't need to speak back. The ship understood him too. Their connection was instant, profound, and unspoken. On the Endurance *, the chaos began to subside. Alarms stopped blaring, systems stabilized, and the glowing light from the fighter dimmed slightly. Grace let out a shaky breath, clutching the console tightly. "He did it," she murmured, her voice filled with wonder. Commander Hayes approached, her expression unreadable. "What just happened?" Grace shook her head, smiling faintly. "I don't know, but I think we're about to find out. Nathan opened his eyes slowly, the glow of the alien fighter fading around him as he adjusted to the strange new connection. The ship's hum had softened, now a gentle vibration that seemed to resonate through his entire body. He felt different, lighter, sharper, as if part of his mind had expanded to accommodate something vast and ancient. Memories weren't his own anymore. They mingled with fragments of the ship's past, images of distant stars and battles long forgotten. Grace's voice came over the comms again, hesitant but hopeful. "Nate, are you still there?" "I'm here," Nathan replied, his voice steadier than before. "This thing, it's amazing. It's not dangerous. It's just lonely." His words sent a ripple of murmurs through the crew back on the Endurance *. Commander Hayes frowned, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She didn't like the idea of an alien artifact forming some kind of bond with one of her people. It was unpredictable, risky. But she couldn't deny what she'd seen. The ship had responded to Nathan in a way it hadn't to anyone else. For now, at least it seemed calm. Over the next few days, Nathan spent hours inside the fighter, which he began calling Echo. Each time he entered the cockpit, the connection grew stronger. Echo shared more of its memories, showing him visions of its creators, the Valeth. They were a race of explorers and warriors, blending artistry with technology in ways humanity could scarcely imagine. Their ships weren't tools. They were companions, designed to form deep bonds with their pilots. When the Valeth vanished, Echo had been left behind, drifting endlessly until humans stumbled upon it. With Grace's help, Nathan started decoding parts of Echo's interface. Symbols that once seemed random began to make sense, revealing fragments of information about the ship's capabilities. It wasn't just a fighter. It was a guardian, built to protect as much as to destroy. Its weapon systems were unmatched, capable of disabling entire fleets without causing unnecessary harm. But Echo also carried knowledge, maps of uncharted star systems, scientific advancements far beyond human understanding. "Look at this," Nathan said one day, pointing to a holographic display Grace had rigged up in the lab. Strange patterns floated above the table, shifting and rearranging themselves as they worked. "These are coordinates. I think they lead to places the Valeth visited, or maybe even their homeworld." Grace leaned closer, her brow furrowed in concentration. "If we can figure out where these locations are, it could change everything for us. New resources, new allies." Her voice trailed off as she glanced at Nathan. "But none of this matters unless we can trust Echo completely." Nathan nodded, understanding her concern. Trust didn't come easily, especially when dealing with something so foreign. Yet, every interaction with Echo reinforced his belief that it meant no harm. The ship communicated through feelings rather than words, conveying emotions like gratitude, curiosity, and even a hint of sadness. It missed its original pilot, but it was beginning to accept Nathan as a worthy companion. Not everyone shared their optimism. Some members of the crew whispered among themselves, accusing Nathan of getting too close, of letting his emotions cloud his judgment. Lieutenant Ryan Carter voiced his concerns openly during a meeting with Commander Hayes. "We don't know what this thing is capable of," he argued. "What happens if it turns on him, or all of us?" Hayes listened silently, weighing the risks. She trusted Nathan's skills, but the uncertainty gnawed at her. Still, she couldn't ignore the progress he and Grace were making. Every breakthrough brought them closer to unlocking Echo's secrets and possibly securing humanity's future. One evening, after another long session inside the fighter, Nathan sat alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Echo's presence lingered in his mind, comforting yet profound. He realized he'd never felt more alive than he did now, connected to something greater than himself. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain. Echo had chosen him, and he wouldn't let it down. As days turned into weeks, Nathan's connection with Echo deepened. The ship no longer felt like a foreign object. It was an extension of himself, responding to his thoughts and emotions as naturally as breathing. At night, when he closed his eyes, vivid dreams filled his mind. Dreams that weren't his own. They were memories from the Valeth, fragments of their history woven together in dazzling tapestries of light and sound. In one dream, Nathan found himself standing on a planet bathed in golden sunlight. Towering structures made of shimmering metal stretched toward the sky, their surfaces etched with intricate designs. Beings moved gracefully among them, the Valeth. Their slender forms glowed faintly, their luminous eyes reflecting wisdom and sorrow. He watched as they worked alongside ships like Echo, forming bonds so strong that pilot and vessel became inseparable. These weren't just machines to the Valeth. They were partners, companions, even friends. When Nathan woke, he carried those images with him, sharing them with Grace during their daily sessions. She listened intently, scribbling notes as he described what he'd seen. Together, they pieced together more of Echo's story. The Valeth had been a peaceful race at first, using their advanced technology to explore the galaxy and protect weaker civilizations. But their journey ended abruptly when they encountered an enemy unlike any other, a parasitic species known as the Kelfar. They consumed everything, Nathan explained, his voice heavy with emotion. Planets, resources, entire populations. The Valeth fought back, but the Kelfar kept coming. Eventually, they overwhelmed them. Grace frowned, her pen pausing mid-sentence. "Do you think the Kelfar are still out there?" Nathan hesitated. "Echo hasn't shown me anything recent, but I don't think they're gone. Something about this feels unfinished." The thought unsettled both of them. Humanity wasn't ready for a threat like the Kelfar. Not yet. But if Echo held the key to defeating them, it might be humanity's only chance. Meanwhile, tensions aboard the Endurance continued to rise. While Nathan and Grace worked tirelessly, others grew increasingly uneasy. Lieutenant Ryan Carter led the opposition, arguing that relying on an alien artifact was reckless. "We don't know what we're dealing with," he told Commander Hayes during another heated meeting. "What happens if Echo decides we're disposable? What happens if it turns on us?" Hayes listened patiently, though her patience was wearing thin. "And what do you propose we do, Lieutenant? Abandon the mission? Leave behind something that could save us or destroy us?" Carter clenched his jaw, but said nothing. Deep down, he knew she was right. Still, fear spread among the crew, fueling rumors and distrust. Some avoided Nathan altogether, treating him like he'd been corrupted by the ship. Others whispered about mutiny, though none dared act on it. Through it all, Nathan pressed on. His bond with Echo gave him strength, shielding him from doubt and fear. During one session, he pushed deeper into the ship's core programming, uncovering encrypted warnings left behind by the Valeth. Fragments of data spoke of the Kelfar's return, hinting at signs that would signal their arrival. Echo pulsed softly, urging him to focus, to prepare. One evening, Grace joined Nathan in the observation deck, where he often went to think. She sat beside him, staring out at the stars. "You've changed," she said quietly. "Ever since you started working with Echo, you're different." Nathan glanced at her, then back at the viewport. "Different how?" "Stronger," she replied. "More confident, like you finally found your place." He smiled faintly, knowing she was right. For years, he'd drifted through life, avoiding risks and responsibilities. Now, he had purpose. Echo needed him, and maybe humanity did too. Grace reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Just promise me one thing. Don't let this consume you. You're still human, Nate. Don't forget that." Nathan nodded, though part of him wondered if being human was enough anymore. With Echo's power coursing through him, he felt capable of anything. But deep down, he knew Grace was right. Humanity had limits, and limits were dangerous when facing something as vast and ancient as the Kelfar. Nathan's bond with Echo had grown so strong that the line between man and machine began to blur. He could feel the ship's presence even when he wasn't inside it, a faint hum in the back of his mind that kept him grounded yet restless. The warnings etched into Echo's core haunted him. Visions of the Kelthars' return, their shadowy forms consuming everything in their path. Nathan knew they couldn't wait any longer. Humanity needed to see what Echo was capable of. One night, after most of the crew had retired to their quarters, Nathan made a decision. He slipped into his suit quietly, careful not to draw attention. Grace had warned him against taking risks. But this wasn't about recklessness, it was about trust. Echo trusted him, and he trusted Echo. It was time to prove it. He floated silently toward the fighter, its glow faint but steady in the darkness of space. As he approached, the hatch opened without hesitation, welcoming him inside. The cockpit enveloped him once again, the warmth spreading through his body like an embrace. "Let's do this," Nathan whispered, more to himself than to the ship. Echo responded instantly, lifting off from its position near the Endurance asterisk. For the first time, Nathan felt the full power of the fighter as it surged forward, faster than anything he'd ever experienced. Stars blurred into streaks of light, and the sensation of speed was exhilarating yet disorienting. But it wasn't just speed. Echo moved with grace, weaving through space with precision that defied physics. Back on the Endurance asterisk, alarms blared as sensors detected the sudden movement. Commander Hayes rushed to the bridge, her face pale with anger and fear. "What's happening?" she demanded, staring at the monitors. "It's Echo," Grace replied, her voice trembling. "Nathan took it out for a test flight." "What?" Hayes snapped, slamming her fist on the console. "He disobeyed a direct order." Grace didn't respond. Her eyes were glued to the viewport, where Echo darted across the void, performing maneuvers that seemed impossible. It twisted and turned, accelerating and decelerating with effortless ease. Then, without warning, the ship vanished entirely, leaving only a faint ripple in space behind. Moments later, it reappeared several kilometers away, hovering silently as if nothing had happened. On board, Nathan let out a shaky breath, his heart pounding with adrenaline. "Did you see that?" he murmured, knowing Echo understood. "We can do things no one else can." The ship pulsed softly in response, conveying pride and determination. Nathan grinned despite himself. This wasn't just a test, it was proof. Proof that humanity could rise above its limitations, that they could stand against whatever threats lay ahead. When Nathan returned to the Endurance asterisk, the reception was far from warm. Hayes confronted him immediately, her voice sharp and unforgiving. "What were you thinking? You put everyone at risk." "I did what I had to do," Nathan shot back, his tone calm but firm. "You wanted answers, and now we have them. Echo isn't just a weapon, it's a guardian, and it chose me." Carter stepped forward, glaring at Nathan. "Or maybe it's using you. Have you thought about that? What happens when it decides we're not worth protecting?" Nathan met his gaze steadily. "It won't, because it understands loyalty. Something you clearly don't." Before Carter could retort, Grace intervened, stepping between them. "Enough. We don't have time for this. Nate proved something today, something important. Echo is powerful, yes, but it's also intelligent. If we're going to face whatever's coming, we need to work together." Hayes sighed, rubbing her temples. She looked exhausted, torn between duty and uncertainty. Finally, she nodded. "Fine, but this doesn't mean I trust it, or you. One wrong move, Cole, and I'll shut this whole operation down." Nathan didn't argue. He knew he pushed boundaries, but he also knew the truth. Echo was humanity's best chance. As he walked away, he felt the ship's presence lingering in his mind, reassuring him. They were ready for anything. The discovery of the Kelthars' looming threat weighed heavily on Nathan. Each time he accessed Echo's core programming, fragments of encrypted data revealed more about the parasitic species. The Valith had fought valiantly against them, but their efforts only delayed the inevitable. Now, echoes of the Kelfar's presence were detected near human-occupied sectors, subtle disturbances in space-time, energy signatures unlike anything natural. It wasn't a question of if they would arrive, but when. Grace worked tirelessly alongside Nathan, analyzing the data and piecing together the puzzle. "These patterns are unmistakable," she said one evening, pointing to a holographic display filled with swirling anomalies. "They're moving systematically, consuming everything in their path. If we don't act soon." She didn't finish her sentence, but Nathan understood. Humanity was unprepared for an enemy like the Kelfar. Their technology, their weapons, even their strategies, would be useless against such a relentless force. But Echo wasn't ordinary. It carried the knowledge and power of the Valeth, designed to protect what mattered most. And now it trusted Nathan to wield that power. Commander Hayes called an emergency meeting to discuss the findings. The tension aboard the Endurance was palpable as the crew gathered in the briefing room. Nathan stood at the front, flanked by Grace, while Hayes paced behind the table. "We've confirmed that these energy signatures match descriptions from Echo's database," Nathan began, his voice steady despite the weight of the situation. "The Kelfar are real, and they're heading this way." Murmurs rippled through the room, some crew members exchanging worried glances. Lieutenant Ryan Carter spoke up, his tone skeptical. "Even if this is true, how can we fight something we don't understand? One ship, no matter how advanced, isn't enough." "It's not just a ship," Nathan countered, his patience wearing thin. "Echo isn't just a machine, it's alive. It knows what's coming, and it's ready. All we have to do is trust it." Hayes held up a hand to silence the growing debate. Her expression was grim but resolute. "Trust or not, we need a plan. Cole, you've proven Echo's capabilities, but we can't rely solely on you. We'll prepare the fleet, fortify our defenses, and monitor those energy signatures closely. If the Kelfar show up, we'll be ready, or as ready as we can be." Nathan nodded, though he knew conventional tactics wouldn't work. The Kelfar consumed entire civilizations, leaving nothing behind. Humanity's strength lay in its adaptability, but even that might not be enough. Still, he couldn't afford doubt. Not now. Echo pulsed softly in his mind, offering reassurance. Together, they could face whatever came next. That night, Nathan returned to the observation deck, staring out at the endless expanse of stars. Grace joined him, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. "You really believe we can win this, don't you?" she asked quietly. "I have to," Nathan replied, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "If I don't, then who will?" Grace sighed, leaning against the railing beside him. "You've changed so much since you got here. You used to run from responsibility, Nate. Now you're carrying the weight of the galaxy on your shoulders." He chuckled softly, though there was no humor in it. "Maybe that's what Echo wanted, to remind me I'm capable of more than fixing broken parts. Maybe it saw something in me I didn't see myself." Grace smiled faintly, placing a hand on his arm. "Well, whatever it saw, it was right. Just don't forget why you started this. Not for glory or revenge, but because you care." Her words lingered as Nathan turned back to the viewport. Out there, somewhere beyond the stars, the Kelfar were coming. But humanity wasn't alone. With Echo by his side, Nathan felt a flicker of hope, a fragile, stubborn light in the face of overwhelming darkness. Whatever happened next, he would face it head-on. The days that followed were tense aboard the Endurance. Preparations for the Kelfar's arrival consumed every waking moment. Weapons systems were upgraded, defensive protocols rewritten, and evacuation plans drafted in case the worst happened. Yet, despite the flurry of activity, distrust lingered among the crew. Many still viewed Echo, and by extension, Nathan, as a liability rather than an asset. Commander Hayes wrestled with her own doubts, pacing the bridge late at night when the rest of the crew had gone to sleep. She trusted Nathan's skills, but relying on an alien artifact felt like gambling with humanity's future. The stakes were too high for blind faith. Finally, she made a decision. Without consulting Nathan or Grace, she contacted Earth Command, requesting reinforcements and outlining a contingency plan. If Echo proved uncontrollable, they would disable it, by force if necessary. Grace discovered the transmission the next morning while reviewing communication logs. Her heart sank as she realized what Hayes intended. She found Nathan in the lab, poring over data from Echo's core programming. "Nate," she said urgently, closing the door behind her, "we've got a problem." Nathan looked up, his brow furrowed. "What is it?" "Hayes sent a message to Earth Command," Grace explained, her voice low. "She's planning to take Echo away from you if things go south. She doesn't trust it, or you." For a moment, Nathan just stared at her, his mind racing. Betrayal burned in his chest, but beneath it was something deeper: resolve. He'd known from the start that not everyone would believe in him or Echo, but he hadn't expected Hayes to act so drastically. Still, he couldn't let anger cloud his judgment. Humanity needed Echo, whether they understood it or not. "We can't let that happen," Nathan said finally, his tone firm. "Echo isn't a weapon to be controlled. It's a partner. If Hayes tries to take it, she'll destroy everything we've worked for." Grace nodded, though fear flickered in her eyes. "What do we do?" "Convince her otherwise," Nathan replied. "If I can show her how much Echo trusts me, and how much I trust it, maybe she'll back down." Later that day, Nathan requested a private meeting with Hayes. When he entered her office, she looked up from her desk, her expression guarded. "What do you want, Cole?" she asked, her tone clipped. "I know about the message you sent," Nathan began, cutting straight to the point. "I get it. You're trying to protect everyone. But taking Echo away won't help. It'll only make things worse." Hayes leaned back in her chair, studying him carefully. "And why should I believe you? You've gone against orders before." "How do I know you won't again?" "Because I'm asking you to trust me," Nathan said, his voice steady. "Echo chose me for a reason. It knows what's coming, and it's ready to fight alongside us. But it needs someone who understands it, not someone who sees it as a threat." Hayes hesitated, her gaze softening slightly. She wanted to believe him, but the risks were enormous. "If you're wrong, Cole, millions could die." "I'm not wrong," Nathan insisted. "Let me prove it. Give me one more chance to show you what Echo can do." Before Hayes could respond, Grace stepped into the room, holding a tablet. "Commander, you need to see this." On the screen was new data from Echo's sensors, a massive energy spike near the edge of human space. The Kelthar were closer than anyone had anticipated. Hayes cursed under her breath, grabbing the tablet to examine the readings. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, finally, she looked at Nathan. "Fine," she said reluctantly. "One last chance. But if you fail, I'm grounding you. And that ship." Nathan nodded, relief washing over him. "Thank you." As they left the office, Grace turned to him, her face pale. "That was close. Too close." "It's not over yet," Nathan replied, his jaw tightening. "But we'll get through this. Together." Echo pulsed softly in his mind, its presence unwavering. Whatever came next, they would face it side by side. The moment of truth arrived sooner than anyone expected. The Kelthar's energy signature grew stronger, their presence looming like a storm on the horizon. Nathan stood in Echo's cockpit, his hands resting lightly on the glowing controls. The ship hummed around him, its pulse steady but urgent, as if it too could feel the weight of what was coming. Outside, the crew of the Endurance watched anxiously, their faces pale with fear and determination. Commander Hayes approached Nathan one last time before the battle. Her expression was unreadable, but her voice carried a note of reluctant respect. "This is it, Cole. Prove me wrong." "I will," Nathan replied simply. He didn't need to say more. The bond between him and Echo spoke louder than words ever could. Grace stood nearby, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She wanted to tell Nathan to be careful, to come back safe, but she knew better. Instead, she gave him a small nod, her eyes filled with quiet trust. Nathan returned the gesture before stepping fully into the cradle at Echo's center. As the hatch closed behind him, the ship flared brightly, its glow lighting up the void like a beacon. Out in space, the first signs of the Kelthar appeared. Dark shapes emerging from the shadows, their forms shifting and writhing like living smoke. They moved with unnatural speed, consuming everything in their path. Stars dimmed as they passed, swallowed whole by their insatiable hunger. Echo surged forward, responding instantly to Nathan's thoughts. The ship moved with unmatched agility, weaving through the chaos as if dancing. Its weapon systems activated, unleashing bursts of energy that tore through the Kelthar's ranks. But these weren't ordinary attacks. They were precise, targeting only the parasitic entities without causing collateral damage. Echo wasn't just fighting, it was protecting. Back on the Endurance Asterisk, the crew watched in awe as Echo unleashed its full potential. Commander Hayes gripped the railing tightly, her knuckles white. "How is it doing that?" she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "It's alive," Grace murmured beside her. "It understands what's at stake." The battle raged on, each moment feeling like an eternity. Nathan pushed himself to his limits, merging completely with Echo. The ship's memories flooded his mind, guiding him, teaching him how the Valeth had fought and survived against the Kelthar. Together, man and machine became something greater, a force capable of standing against the darkness. Finally, the Kelthar began to retreat, their forms dissolving into nothingness as Echo's final assault overwhelmed them. When the last shadow vanished, silence fell over the battlefield. Echo hovered silently, its glow dimming slightly as if exhausted. Nathan emerged from the fighter, his body trembling but his spirit unbroken. The crew erupted into cheers, their fear replaced by relief and admiration. Even Hayes stepped forward, offering him a rare smile. "You did it, Cole. You saved us." Nathan shook his head, his gaze fixed on Echo. "We did it. Together." From that day forward, no one doubted the bond between Nathan and Echo, or the role they would play in humanity's future. United, they prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing they had faced the impossible and prevailed.